Welcome and hello. This is a video lesson in MODSIM DSS. And what we're going to be talking about in this lesson is a file management, user interface, and program settings. So if you already have MODSIM installed and ready to go, but you don't know anything about MODSIM, this is the lecture for you. All right. If you don't have it installed yet, then check out lesson 1 and then come back right here. All right, so let's get started. What I have on the screen here is the MODSIM interface. It is a mobile interface, so you can move it around and resize it within your window. What we're going to be talking about in this lesson is the menu items across the top here, and then some of these buttons are the same thing, same functionality. But for starters, let's just talk about the interface. Over here to the top left, I think I can move these around. Yeah, so these are mobile and portable as well. They sort of dock, and it looks like it just turned into two separate tabs here. We have the node palette and then the network overview. Okay, there we go. There's the network overview. I'm trying to get it to dock, but it looks like if I double click, then it undocks. Okay, anyway, we have our different elements over here like node storage, reservoirs, sinks, and so on. We'll talk about those details in a later lesson. Basically, if you wanted to add something to your map, you just go ahead and click on it like non-storage. You can click the map and boom, there's your non-storage node. Let me just go ahead and name this. So I'll just call that city A. Then let's add another non-storage node. Boom, boom, boom. So I've got four multiple non-storage nodes on my map already. Let's go ahead and name this one city B. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about the nodes or the elements or their properties in this video. I just wanted to get a couple on the map so that we can talk about them. I can also go right click and delete if I wanted to delete them. And then, yeah, you can click it to select, and then you can click the text if you want to rename it. But city A and city B work good for me. And if you want to sketch a direction, you'd use the arrow. But yeah, okay, let's talk about the menus though. The menus across the top are File, Edit, View, MODSIM, Window, and Help. And then in the row below that are some buttons. The buttons basically perform the same functionality as some of the more popular menu items. So the first one here is File, New, and then Open, and then Save. That's the first three buttons here, which is New, Open, and Save. Currently, I'm on Network 1, but it's unsaved. So I believe if I click on the Save button, the Save disk icon, here it's prompting me to save. So navigate to the directory you want to save it in, and then call it whatever you want. Call this lesson2.xy and save. Okay, so up at the top, lesson 2 has now been populated. That's the name of this model. So I can close the model just by clicking the close button. I don't have any models loaded in. In fact, you may actually start MODSIM with this being your screen, in which case you can just come up to New Network, click New Network again. We have two networks that are blank, also Window and New Window. It opens up another window. These are brand new networks, so I'm going to go ahead and load the network that I just saved with those two different non-storage nodes. So I can go up to File and then Open, and then navigate to my project, and boom, here it is. So now I have a total of 4 windows open. There's lesson 2, and then network 2, 3, and 4, which are blank. While we're talking about the window menu, maybe I should just talk about that now. We can create a new window. We saw how that works. Now I'm on number 6, it looks like. When a window is maximized here, you can minimize it, or you can click this non-maximize button, and you can see all the other windows, which you can move around, you can maximize, you can minimize. When they're minimized, they're down here. Okay, so I just double clicked and now it's maximized. Network 2, let's get the lesson 2 network up. Here we are. Another option is to go cascade, and that just kind of organizes the windows like that. I'm going to close some of these though. Okay, so I'm down to 2 windows. I can also click on horizontal so that I can see both windows at the same time. Vertical works like that. And then close all documents. I believe that's, yeah, closing all the models that you had loaded. Okay, so File, Open. Let's go ahead and load that lesson back in. Also under the File menu, we have Import for background images and time series, Export our results to Excel. We can close and then save all, save as, and then save, print, preview, and exit. Under the Edit menu, what we have are some typical edit features like undo. There's also a redo, copy, paste, delete. Some of these same commands are if you select on a node and then right click, you have the same cut, copy, delete. And say if you copy, then you can paste or paste with values. So you can go right click, paste, or I'm sorry, with data, paste with data. And those two options should also be available here. Yep, paste and paste with data. So if I click paste with data, it made a copy right on top of the existing element, but I can move that off. Looks like it copied the same name, but just added the number 1. So I could go ahead and rename that. You can also select multiple at a time by dragging. Okay, so I just clicked the delete key after it was selected. That's another way to delete. Another thing in the edit menu is the search. So we can find a node by a list, a name, or a number. I forgot to mention that some of these buttons here also perform the same tasks as the menu. So say for instance, here's the find node button. If I click that, it's asking for a node number. So I'd actually have to know the node number of this city A node. So I'm going to double click to open up the properties menu, or you can go right click and then properties. And then it is node one. You see this one right here in the parentheses. And then let's see, city B, I assume is going to be node two. So there's a 2 right here. So if I unselect both nodes and then click on the find element, and then right here I type in a 1, it'll probably give me city A. Okay, boom, it selected city A, which is pretty trivial with just 2 nodes. I can see everything right here. But imagine you have a huge model and there's hundreds of elements, then you can easily find what you're looking for using the find node. Now, you may not be able to easily remember what number each of your nodes are, but you remember it's called city A and city B. That's when you want to go up to edit and then node search by name. And then there should be it's a drop down, just city A or city B. Select what you're looking for, click OK, and then boom, it's highlighted. So, and the last one was node search by number and by list. Okay, so here's a list of the nodes, similar to the drop down, it looks like. Okay, so I'll just click cancel there. And lastly, in the edit menu, we have select all. That's that. And then what's select nodes? Okay. Oh, I see. So you can select all by type. There's also an undo redo. So here's the undo button. If I moved city A, for instance, right there, and then undid it, moved it over here, undid it. That's Control Z is the shortcut for undo, but Control Y is the shortcut for redo. There's no button for redo, but it's also an important tool. So let me go ahead and move that there. The next menu over is View. So this allows you to zoom in, zoom out, and basically navigate to where on your map you want to go. I should probably also mention this network overview menu down here sort of serves as a mini map. So you can see the blue outline shows what we're looking at on the map. But I can just drag a new frame or a new outer bounding rectangle and it'll zoom me in that way. Or I could just go view, zoom in, and then it zooms in a little bit. View, zoom normal, view, zoom to fit, view, zoom out. Okay. I like the mini map a little bit better. So that was zoomed in. But if I drag a larger rectangle here, it zooms me out. I like to zoom in pretty close, so that looks good for me. Also, if you have an element selected, you can right click properties, double click properties, or you can, with it selected, go to view and properties, which looks like it's also F4. So 4 different ways to invoke the properties box when you have an element selected. You can open up multiple property boxes as well. If you select multiple, click on view, properties, and then boom, now I have the property box for all of the selected elements. All right, the next menu over is MODSIM. That's right here. If I click on network settings, this allows the user to set a number of different model parameters. The general tab, time step, and time series. In the general tab, this is where we can set the resolution for a number of decimal places for our data. The unit type is either English or metric. I'm going to go ahead and select English. And whatever you select, it's going to give you a little info box here on what are the current selections. So even though it's English, for instance, we're still using kilowatts for power, but everything else here looks like it's the standard English units. And then whatever you select here, like if I select metric, it's going to give me metric options down below for the default flow units and default storage units. So right now it is acre feet. That's just because it was before I changed the unit type. But typically I'd do something like, 1,000 cubic meters or million cubic meters. Kind of depends on what the time frame is. So let me switch that back to English. Okay. And with English selected, we have some more of the typical English units, both storage and flow. Further down, we have model convergence. So these are just some criteria we'll talk about when we actually run the model. The next tab over is time step. This is where the user can specify what time step should be used for this particular model. The default options range from 15 minutes up to 1 month with some like predefined values here like 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 10 days, and 1 month. But if you don't like these options, you can click on user defined, and then that allows you to type in the number and then the units right here. So it looks like you can go down to the units of seconds and then up to the units of years. So a lot of flexibility there with the time step. And then the actual start and end date range are defined just below that. So you can set the start and end data date and then the start and end simulation date and time. So what that looks like is the default here is 1980, just a 1 year duration with a 1 month time step. So we'll set that back to month. And then based on your selection up here for both the duration and the time step, that will update this table down below here. So say for instance, I switch the time step to be user defined and then 2 months, and then I tab off. This table down here is updated to be the first month, the third month, the fifth month for the entire date range. So just so you know that that's how that works. All right, and then time series is the next tab over. This defines whether or not you're using an XY file or an SQLite database. All right, too much detail to go into that for this lesson, though. I should probably also mention when we're setting the units that the units here are the default units. They're not necessarily the same units you need to use for all of your parameter data input. So if I open up this city A data, I'm seeing the inflow data and flow rates. Here are the units. These units can be different units than the units that are the system defaults for the model, just so you don't have to make conversions, that those conversions will take place by MODSIM. So the flow rate could be acre feet per month. The first month could be 200, and then the next month could be 250. I can go ahead and save that. And then if I want to open it back up and edit it again, boom, there's my data. It also gives me a plot right here. So there's that. All of this data that I'm saving for the model should be saved in the project directory, which is right here. It's called lesson2.xy. So this should be an ASCII file. Here's what that looks like. So it gives me the version number. It gives me the number of nodes. It gives me a lot of just basic information about the program. Like the default units is acre feet per month. That's the default flow units. The default storage units is acre feet. And then it talks about the different nodes. Like here's city A. There's a ID. The user manual says that all MODSIM input data are stored in the ASCII text file with the .xy file extension, where each line of input begins with a command followed by values that are relevant to that command. For instance, here's the XY version. It tells you the actual value. So that continues on for the entire XY file here. All right, well, that's it. What we talked about in this lesson was file management, the user interface, and program settings in MODSIM.